Have you seen ads online about investing in real estate without using your own money or credit and you wonder, is that really true? Well, I can tell you from a lot of experience that it is true, but you have to know what to do. Today in this episode, I want to talk to you about a little known way of investing that doesn't involve using your own money or using your own credit or even buying a property. And you can make thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of dollars a year doing it if you choose to use this path. Now, it's well known inside the real estate investing space, but it's not so well known outside the real estate investing space. And that topic I want to talk to you about today is wholesaling. Now, you may have heard that term wholesaling and you wonder, what does that mean? Well, wholesaling is very simply when you locate a property that's under market value and typically off market, and you put that house or property under contract, meaning that you put a contract to purchase the property, but you don't actually have to purchase the property. Now you take that contract and you go find another cash buyer and you sell the contract to that cash buyer for more money than you put the house under contract for. For instance, let's say you find a piece of property that's run down, it needs work, people really don't care, they just want to get out of the property. That's called a motivated seller. You can learn about that in other videos that we do on this channel. But these motivated sellers will allow you to put the house under contract for below market value because they just want to get out because they're a motivated seller. Now, you write that contract up for, let's just say, $50,000. Now you take that contract and you go find a cash investor like me or like any other cash investors that want to buy properties in that area, and you let them know that you have a house for sale and you name your price. Now, as long as your price is not greedy, as long as your price allows them to still make a fair profit, they can then purchase that contract from you at the higher price. For instance, you may say, I'm asking $75,000 for this house. And you say, but Glenn, I don't own the house. Well, you're actually called the owner by contract. So because you have the house under a contract, you actually control that property at this moment. Now, there's certain ways you have to have your contract spelled out so that you're allowed to sell the contract. But as long as you have the correct paperwork, which is very simple, you can actually do this method of investing. I have a website put together that you can check out that has all the ins and outs of wholesaling and how you can do it in your area. That website has full training videos and forms and scripts and sample calls and live recorded calls of my team actually doing deals. So if that's of interest to you, again, go to noflipflipping.com. But today, I want to jump in and give you the content so you understand the overall process and how wholesaling works and how you can use it to make money for yourself as a real estate investor. Just so you know, I have a lot more trainings coming out on wholesaling, so be sure and like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any. So let me go back and finish that last example. So the example was you found a house and you put that house under contract for $50,000. Then you priced it out and you realized you could sell that to another cash investor for $75,000. Why would they pay you $75,000 for something you paid $50,000 for? Because if you do the math correctly, they will still be able to make a $40,000, $50,000, or $60,000 profit on that property by doing a full renovation. Why should you get paid $25,000, yes, you heard me, $25,000 to find that property? Well, for just that. You find the property. That's what you get paid for. You see, many home flippers are in the renovation business. They want to buy homes and flip them for a profit. They want to take all the risk. They want to do all the renovations. They want to hire all the contractors. They want to have all the lenders, all the insurance. They want to take on all that themselves. But what they don't necessarily want to do is go find that off-market property. That's where you come in. As a wholesaler, you get paid to find and locate off-market properties and put them under contract for a lower price, and then sell them at a higher price to that renovator or flipper. Although in the real estate investing space, it's very popular right now, it wasn't popular 10 years ago when Amber and I got started. We sort of stumbled into wholesaling by accident. One day we put a house under contract that we wanted to purchase, and a local neighbor overheard that we put the house under contract. She reached out to us and said, hey, I want to buy that property. Can I pay you $10,000 over what you paid for it? You see, this neighbor was a landlord. She owned multiple houses in this neighborhood, and she wanted this house, and she wanted it bad. But we beat her to the punch in buying the house. So she wanted to pay $10,000 more. So I said, I'll take $20,000 more. And she said, no, but I'll give you 15. And long story short, we settled on a $15,000, we call that a spread, that we made from buying the house. Well, I was shocked and said, wow, we just made $15,000 and we never even owned this piece of property. And my eyes were open to a new way of doing business. What else happened to me was this. Around the same time, I realized that we spent a lot of money in marketing. Where our market is, we do TV ads, we do direct mail, we do bandit signs out on the highway, we do a variety of different methods, SEO and different things like that. And people would call us to sell their house to us, and we became what I would call a property snob. We only wanted to buy houses in the neighborhood that we knew really well, like the back of our hand. And while that's not a bad idea, if you're marketing to a wider area, it doesn't make sense to not do something with those leads. After all, we were paying for them and paying a lot of money for them. So we decided to see if other people wanted to buy those properties. It started with houses that were in not such desirable locations like the ghetto around us. We didn't want to be in that area to invest in properties. We didn't like the resale. We didn't like being a landlord there. We really had no interest in those properties. But you know what? Other people did. So we started to have those houses that would come in as a lead, and we would put that house under contract. And then we would find a buyer and we'd sell that contract to that buyer. We started to realize we could make $10,000 to $15,000 on average per wholesale spread for doing that. In our first year, we did about $150,000 in profit of wholesale spreads. The next year, about $400,000. The next year, about $300,000. We dropped back a little bit. Then I heard a story that totally changed things for me. You see, we bought our office building in upstate New York from a local wholesaler. He found the house, put it under contract, and then sold that house to us. So he made money on the deal, and good for him. He found it before we did. When we finished doing complete renovations on that office, which was an amazing transformation, we invited several people back, including him, to see this finished product. He came in, he was all excited about a property he had just closed on. I said, what happened? He said, remember that old building down the street, 3 blocks from your office? I said, yeah. He said, my lawyer called me and told me that CVS was interested in buying that lot. So I put that lot under contract for $50,000. Guess what CVS paid him for it? $250,000. He made a $200,000 spread, a wholesale spread, for wholesaling that piece of property because he found it before CVS did, and then CVS bought it from him. It opened my eyes to realize that I was leaving a lot of money on the table. And I encourage you, as a new real estate investor, as you're marketing and looking for properties, don't leave money on the table. Just because you don't want to flip a house, and just because you don't want to pay as much for a certain house, doesn't mean that somebody else won't. As the market became more competitive over the years, we realized that there were a lot of people that were not really smart investors. They were actually paying more for properties than we were willing to pay. And I said to myself, if you can't beat them, sell to them. And so at that moment, we realized that if you want to pay more for a property than we want to pay, for whatever reason, maybe you can do it better, maybe your materials are cheaper, maybe you don't want to make as much profit as we do, I'm happy to find that property and sell it to you. And now our company routinely does over $100,000 per month in wholesale spreads, or around $1.2 to $1.5 million a year in wholesale spreads in one market. Many of my friends who are also larger investors do millions of dollars on an annual basis in wholesaling properties. The good news for you is you don't have to do millions of dollars a year to have an amazing lifestyle as a wholesaler in real estate investing. You see, if you just did one deal a month and made an extra $10,000 to $15,000, would that make a significant difference for you? My guess is it probably would. Now, people say it's easy. Hey, you're just buying a piece of paper. You're not even doing a full renovation. That's pretty simple. Just find a property and sell it. Piece of cake. And a lot of people will tote around courses and try and sell you on the idea that it's easy. And I'll tell you, it's not easy. Finding off-market properties is not the easiest thing you'll ever do as a real estate investor. But it is one of the most lucrative. Because in real estate investing, you may have heard me say it in other videos, we make our money when we buy. And if we buy the house right, there's money to be made, and there's many options you have as a real estate investor. In other words, you could wholesale a property, you could flip it yourself, you could turn it into a rental. If you buy it cheap enough, you have all these options. The beauty of this method is you never actually own the house. Title never actually goes in your house if you're doing an assignment of contract. Now, there's a very big difference between assignment of contract and what's called a double close wholesale. So why has this method become so popular over the years? Now, a lot of people claim they're wholesalers. The truth is, not many of them are good at it. Because if you don't buy the house cheap enough, there's not enough meat on the bone to allow the end buyer to actually make a profit. So people pollute the market and let sellers think their house is worth more than it really is. So if you're going to be a wholesaler, be a good one. Make sure you're buying the houses at a deep enough discount. So back to my original question. Why is it so popular now? Because if done correctly, you don't have to use any of your own money. You never actually purchase the house, do you? You don't have to use any of your own credit. You could have a horrible credit score and no money in the bank, and if you knew what you were doing, you could wholesale a house and actually create money out of thin air just by finding an off-market property and selling it to someone that does have money to flip that house. As soon as people found out they could do this without any money and any credit, they realized that it's a pretty lucrative way to do it. And also investors like me, who used to only buy houses in our buy box, now suddenly realized, wait a minute, if a lot of people want to get into real estate investing, I'm happy to sell my other leads to them at an increased profit. And so it made sense to be able to scale that business. So it is very popular for a lot of reasons. It's not as easy as the gurus try and make you think it is online, but if done correctly, it's a very lucrative way to get started as a real estate investor and build up cash. Remember, however, you are doing transactional real estate investing, meaning you have to do a transaction to get paid. Truth be told, flipping is also transactional, full-on renovations, because every single deal you do, you're investing in that house to make more money. But once the house is sold, you have to do something else with that money. I'm going to always encourage you to work your way towards buying long-term and short-term rentals, because that's where true wealth is made, and that's when you become a true real estate investor. But wholesaling is a great way to get started, understanding your market, understanding how to buy off-market deals, how to buy them cheap. You'll hone in your skills as a negotiator. You're honing your skills, you'll build your team, and you'll be absolutely ready to be a full-time real estate investor when the time comes. And if you become a really great wholesaler, you can now cherry pick the renovation deals and the rental deals that you do from there. So becoming a great wholesaler is a great foundational piece to becoming a great real estate investor. I want to give you a strategy to make an extra $10,000 in the next 30 days wholesaling your first property. And you can use this strategy every month going forward if you want to. Remember, it's not easy, it does take work, but it's absolutely worth it. And the strategy is this. First, you have to watch my video on how to negotiate to get the lowest price on the property right here. Next, as soon as you find an off-market property and then negotiate for the lowest possible price and you come to an agreement with the seller, you have the paperwork. Now, this is a very simple line, but it's crucial to allow you to resell this contract. On the contract, where it has the buyer's name, that's going to be you, either have your name or your company name, but whatever it is, next to that, put a slash and then put and or assigns. I'll say it again, and or assigns. That simple line on a contract allows you to assign that contract to somebody else. Now that you have that contract, it's time to go sell that contract to an end buyer. How do you find local flippers in your market? Start advertising. Go on Facebook Marketplace if you can. Go to your local social media. Let them know you have a house for sale. Go to your local RIAs, your real estate investment associations. Look for local cash buyers. Look for the signs around town that say, "We buy houses for cash." Many of them are wholesalers. Some of them are actually renovators. You see, when you find a good deal, the buyers will find you. Better yet, I'm a big believer in digging your well before you're thirsty. Start finding the buyers now. Find out where they want properties. Find out where they're buying properties, and then you market in those areas to find properties for them. However you do it, you want to connect the dots. Now you have a contract, now you have a buyer. Next step is simple. During the process of buying, I want you to ask permission to take your partners through the property so they can look at it. This person is going to be your partner for the time being. You then go through the property with that cash buyer, but only after you see proof of funds to make sure they can actually pay you cash for that property. Don't miss that step. That'll save you a lot of headache and heartache. Now you negotiate the final sales price, and then you go to your title company or your closing attorney and close that deal. The cash buyer brings the cash for the deal. They then transfer that cash over to the seller for the amount that they have contracted. If you've done your homework correctly, you've marked the price up by at least $10,000 and had the new buyer pay all the closing costs. Now, at the end of the day, when everything flushes out, the seller gets their money, the buyer gets the new house, and you should be left with $10,000 to $15,000 left over for you. Now, you want to make $100,000 a year as a wholesaler? Do that once a month.